You're looking at one of the most important passes in the Himalayan part of India. It connects the isolated Ladakh region with the rest of India, which is why people can travel in and out of it, and the region can be supplied with goods. Also, the route allows India to move troops into Ladakh. They're really needed there since the country has long been disputing the territory with China and Pakistan. All in all, the pass is incredibly important. At the same time, it's ranked among the toughest mountain routes on the planet. These photos were taken in the warmer months. You can really feel the thrill from the road, and of course the constant traffic jams because it's tough to pass anyone here. On top of that, there are landslides that definitely don't make the route any safer. And remember, this is one of India's main routes, but that's not even the biggest problem. From November to April, this pass is usually closed because so much snow falls that it takes months to clear. Then more snow falls again, which means another month or two of clearing. You could say this pass is a major challenge which required an equally major solution. $1 billion, 8.7 miles of road cutting through the Himalayan mountain range at an average height of over 9,800 feet. All this is an Indian project promising safe, all-weather passage in the region. Let's take a closer look at what they've planned to build in India. So India's got a troublesome past. Maybe it would be better to just leave it alone and reroute through other areas? That way they could save billions and manpower. No, unfortunately for India and its northwestern Himalayan region, that's just not an option. Zoji La Pass is a crucial spot on National Highway 1, linking the Indian Union territory of Ladakh with neighboring Jammu and Kashmir. Yes, there's another route to reach the Himalayan settlements of India, but Zoji La is the shortest overland route that lets you drive from the relatively flat parts of the country to the isolated mountain region and back. What's more, the route through the pass is also more convenient than its Himalayan neighbor, as the pass itself is at only 11,500 feet. The second route, the Leh-Manali Highway, runs through Taglang La Pass at 17,500 feet. Ladakh itself, which you have to reach by crossing a pass from Jammu and Kashmir, is a region with just 274,000 residents. That's a record, by the way. You can find it in the top of India's administrative units by population. It's second from the bottom. Yes, it's one of the least populated areas of India. Still, the locals, like everyone else, need food, water, and other goods, all of which are brought in through the pass. Indians can work in Ladakh but live, say, in Kashmir or some other nearby non-Himalayan area of the country. Either way, all movement happens through the pass. Yes, there's one civilian airport in Ladakh, but a plane isn't the best way to stay connected when it comes to regular transportation of goods, and people won't, for instance, hop on a plane from Kashmir to Ladakh just to run some errands because, well, it's weird to fly such a short distance. So welcome to Zoji La Pass. You get the idea, right? The livelihood of the people in Ladakh, as well as the region's economic development, seriously depends on that pass. For many people, there's something more important than the economy. It's religion. And here, the pass plays just as crucial a role for the people of Ladakh. Only along its winding and very dangerous roads can one reach the Amarnath Temple from the Union Territory. This Hindu shrine was visited by 285,000 people in 2018, some of whom came from the neighboring mountainous region. The pass is also of utmost importance for the security of Ladakh. The thing is, this is a territory that India is constantly disputing with China and Pakistan. For example, not so long ago in the early 2020s, a clash occurred between Indian and Chinese troops in the Galwan Valley, which extends into Ladakh. There were casualties among the soldiers, so even if there are no direct military actions, the situation remains tense. That's precisely why New Delhi reasonably believes that military presence in Ladakh is absolutely necessary. You never know what might happen. And the pass, let's not forget, is so buried under snow for 5 to 6 months a year that tanks can hardly get through, let alone trucks and cars. And even when it's not blocked, the winding, narrow path is extremely dangerous for any type of vehicle. The only upside, Zoji La Pass is beautiful. At least there's something to look at while you're stuck in yet another traffic jam, which is pretty common there. Normally, it takes over 3 hours to drive from Baltal in Jammu and Kashmir to Kargil in Ladakh, and that's just for 25 miles. Bottom line, they definitely had to do something about the pass. It's way too important. By 2018, all plans to resolve the situation had been laid out and sent to India's Prime Minister Modi. He officially approved a new project, the Zoji La Tunnel, costing just over $1 billion, aimed at saving the isolated region of Ladakh from transportation woes. In 2021, the Indians began construction. According to the plan, the new route will stretch through the Himalayas for 8.8 miles. Its width is 31 feet and its height 25 feet. We mentioned the significance of the route, but let's be clear, there's never been and still isn't a massive flow through the pass. It's not a metropolis with millions of vehicles passing daily, so the Indians didn't see the need for anything multi-lane or mixed with railways. The new tunnel has just 2 lanes, both for cars. Yes, the project includes 2 routes, which are 2 tunnels side by side, yet for most of the project, in the main tunnel under the pass, 2 lanes share a single tube sitting right next to each other. One leads to Kashmir, the other to Ladakh. Still, even though the tunnel looks pretty simple, they made the construction as innovative as they could. The Zoji La tunnel is built according to European standards, specifically using the new Austrian tunneling method, so somewhere in the Himalayas on the edge of India, you can spot an Austrian footprint. For example, during construction, loosening and excessive rock deformation are kept to a minimum. This is achieved by applying a thin layer of shotcrete right after the tunnel face advances. Extensive deformation monitoring is carried out, and passive support isn't used. Instead, there's active support done with rock bolts. They use a bunch of other solutions there that set the Zoji La tunnel apart from simpler counterparts, but instead of listing them all, you can just check out any tunnel in Europe. The Indians plan to make theirs at the same level. Imagine, in a place so far from big cities, there will be a tunnel built to all the latest standards. But that's not all the Zoji La tunnel can surprise you with. The Indians have plans to make their creation high-tech. A tunnel is, of course, the safest thing you can build in the mountains since it's protected from bad weather and everything else that causes accidents and casualties. However, accidents can still happen inside a tunnel, so the new mountain route will be equipped with an uninterrupted power supply, emergency lighting, and structures like these. How are the surface structures connected to the tunnel? Directly. 3 structures are actually shafts. One goes down 1,570 feet, the second 1,260 feet, the third 689 feet. They each reach the Zoji La tunnel at different spots. Through them, the route through the rock gets the air and light it needs, and if there's an emergency, each shaft acts as an escape exit. Let's say there's an emergency and you can't get out no matter what, so you need to call for help. Here in India, they've thought it all through too. There will be emergency phones every 410 feet, which let you get in touch with emergency services. If a small fire breaks out, then every 410 feet, right next to those emergency phones, there will be fire cabinets stocked with everything you need, like fire extinguishers. You won't really get lost in the tunnel, yet the 8.7-mile stretch in India will feature signs with changing info that tell you when, where, and how fast to drive. On top of that, the Zoji La tunnel will have traffic recording equipment, a tunnel radio network, and video cameras, all of which will help control the situation remotely and catch any violators who create risky scenarios. Safety is, of course, great, but some people might really miss the views they had at the mountain pass. Yes, with all the perks of the tunnel, it sounds kind of weird, but the vibe of the Himalayas is way nicer than the dull gray path through the rock. The Indians decided to satisfy the need to enjoy the surrounding mountains too. So far, they've made a 1,470-foot section of tunnel equipped with 70 window openings without glass, through which you can see the whole surrounding landscape. You won't really get to enjoy it much with heavy traffic, but the project engineers say there are spots where you can stop 1 to 2 vehicles during off-peak times, then head out and take in the views of the pass and valleys. Actually, the Indian project isn't just about the tunnel. There are a lot of other jobs too. For example, they decided to upgrade the 11-mile highway leading to the tunnel entrance. 1.9 miles will be widened and the rest will be completely redesigned to meet modern travel standards. On top of that, the plan includes rebuilding several bridges that were either in really bad shape or didn't even exist before the Indian project kicked off. If we talk about the complexity of the project, then building a tunnel is by definition a tough job, needing tons of time, a lot of effort from the workers, and loads of equipment and materials. Basically, a project like this is one of the hardest construction undertakings, but here in the Himalayas, the Indians had to show some real heroism as well. To show how complex the project is, let's point out an interesting fact. The money for building the Zoji La tunnel was provided by the Indian government. The funds went to the company handling the project, and once all the work is done, the project will be handed back to the government. It was originally planned that the tunnel would be built under a model where a private company invests and then recovers costs through toll fees, but since 2013, no one has dared to take on the project. Only one private player showed any interest. And it's no surprise because the construction of the Zoji La Tunnel has been and still is happening under extremely tough conditions. Here's the terrain where the tunnel has to be made. Sometimes there's solid rock, sometimes there isn't. Plus, the rock itself varies in many places, which means different construction methods have to be used. Add to that steep slopes, rocky surfaces, and glaciers whose stability gets disturbed because of the construction, causing chunks to break off. That means delays at best and injuries or even deaths among the crew at worst. Remember why they decided to replace the pass with a tunnel? Snow. Tons of snow. Well, during the project, that's still a huge problem. And of course, you can't ignore the fact that in winter, it's way better to be somewhere warm, not stuck on the Zoji La Pass or nearby, because temperatures can drop below minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And that, as you can guess, is a problem too. Work inside the tunnel might protect from snowstorms and rocks tumbling down the slopes, but building the highway, which is also part of the project, that's where the real hard work comes in. The project's so important that 1,000 people work on it day and night, despite all the problems we mentioned. People in India must be proud of these brave folks. Still, courage doesn't stop delays, so the project that started back in 2018 is still going on today. As of 2024, 52% of the main part of the new route, the Zoji La Tunnel, was completed. Back then, in interviews with the project leads, 2026 was the date they aimed to finish, but due to endless challenges tied to local conditions, by 2025, word came out that the completion was pushed to 2028. Should we even mention that the folks in Ladakh will be patiently waiting for the job to wrap up, regardless of any rescheduling? Ladakh will get a road that connects it with the rest of India regardless of weather, time of day, or anything else that made traveling over the Zoji La Pass so tough. Consequently, the province hidden in the Himalayas will stop being so isolated. Both in winter and summer, trucks will be able to deliver the goods Ladakh needs. People will be able to leave the area whenever they want, and those who need to get into Ladakh will no longer have to wait a month for the snow to be cleared. Also, those who like to get around quickly will see their dream come true. The tunnel isn't a narrow, winding trail where you might fall off any second. It's mostly straight, so they say the distance from Baltal and Jammu and Kashmir to nearby places in Ladakh will drop from 25 to 8 miles. If you translate that into time, the trip won't last 3 hours anymore, but only 15 minutes. The Indian Army will also be pleased, as after the tunnel's built, regardless of the weather or any other conditions, it'll be able to send its equipment to the disputed territory of Ladakh in emergencies, and thanks to the tunnel's width of 31 feet, almost any military vehicle in the country will be able to pass through it. Honestly, the road to the pass isn't exactly a walk in the park either. For instance, this stretch between Kangan and Sonamark is a zigzag road with pretty much the same features as the Zoji La Pass. Avalanches are a totally normal thing here. Getting stuck during winter or other snowy months is just part of the deal. Plus, in the warmer months, there's always the chance of some chunk of mountain rock flying down from the surrounding Himalayas. It doesn't make much sense to build a tunnel that allows for a safe and quick passage through Zoji La Pass while ignoring the section that faces the exact same problems. Naturally, the Indians were well aware of this, so they've already built the Sonamark or Zimor Tunnel, named after its Z-shaped turn. The tunnel was opened in 2025 and is a 4-mile-long route, which is, of course, much shorter than the one under the pass, but still enough to cut travel time on this stretch from several hours to just 15 minutes. There aren't any major differences in the design here. It's a 2-lane tunnel that's just a bit wider, 33 feet to be exact. There's also an extra evacuation tunnel that can be used both in emergencies and as a railway track. Other than that, it's the same kind of advanced Indian tunnel with that Austrian touch and construction methods and top-of-the-line safety features. However, unlike the Zoji La Tunnel, Zimor can boast about its capacity. It's claimed that up to 1,000 vehicles per hour can pass through it at a maximum speed of 50 miles per hour. With this tunnel, the future of traveling to Ladakh becomes more apparent. The Indians will simply circumvent all the toughest sections using tunnels. Expensive, lengthy, extremely difficult, but it's undeniably the most effective way to set up stable communication between Ladakh and the rest of India. Both tunnels we talked about today are part of a big mega project with a simple yet powerful name, India-China Border Roads, or ICBRs for short. Yes, it's just a project that involves building routes near the border with China, but what a massive project it is. As of now, 31 tunnels have been built, are under construction, or are planned, and the total cost for all these mountain passages is around $17.5 billion. To grasp the scale of India's tunneling efforts in the Himalayas, the country has set its sights on building a tunnel under every single mountain pass in the range. Why? It's the same story as with the tunnels we talked about earlier today. They need to secure all-weather routes to the country's isolated regions. And as you can guess, tunnels are just part of it. Since the project's name also mentions roads, yes, India is actively building and upgrading those too. Along with that, the project includes setting up patrol posts and meeting points for border personnel. These are the buildings where the Chinese and Indians gather to discuss territorial issues. There are also plans for 32 helipads, 12 police camps, and much more. When all this will be completed is still unclear. But one thing's for sure, if India brings all these plans to life, there won't be a single remote or isolated spot left in the Indian Himalayas.